Elizabeth Tudor, who was Henry VIII's daughter, was the last Tudor to ever rule England. She ruled for 45 years, and her era, called the Elizabethan era, is referred to as the Golden Age for England because of a lot of development that occurred. She is also known for her military actions of the Spanish Armada. She is known for being a virgin all her life, as there were considerations of marriage for her, but in the end she decided to rule England all by herself. Her favorite suitor was Robert Dudley, but her nobles disapproved of it. Although initially her decision to not marry was controversial, later people began to celebrate her for her virginity, comparing her to Virgin Mary and often depicting her as a goddess. A cult of personality eventually formed around her, but she may have been put off by sexual relationships because she was sexually harassed at a young age by a turd called Thomas Seymour. English drama flourished during this era with the likes of William Shakespeare and Christopher Marlowe. Some historians say she was short-tempered and indecisive. A Protestant herself, she actually was moderate and tolerant in terms of religion, unlike her sister, Bloody Mary, who got the name because of how many Protestants she killed. Still, Elizabeth faced a lot of resistance from Catholics in Scotland and Ireland. She even maintained decent enough relations with Muslim countries. She was quite complex, so it begs the question, what did Reign do with her?
They're engaged. He proposes to her. You're already engaged. I mean, sure, it's cute and all, but you're already engaged. I guess up to be the main guy. Yo, Catherine, looks like we're gonna need a few more of your special serums, because turns out your whole son is a massive dick. You made your bed, lay in it.
So, Queen Elizabeth I, also known as Gloriana, or Good Queen Bess, or the Virgin Queen. No. Oh God. Now, Reign is definitely not the first or the most insane example of making Elizabeth not a virgin. So, now that credit goes to a show called Anonymous, in which she has an affair with a man and then has a son with him, and the son grows up and then she has an affair with him because she doesn't know that he's her son, and then she has a son with him. I love him! Reign is a virgin compared to this shit. I mean, who are we kidding? According to writers, the only way to make a character likable to the audiences is for them to have sex. And the only way a show can be successful is if it includes sex, according to writers. In Reign, not only is the Virgin Queen not a virgin, but she's also into BDSM with Dudley. Specifically a fetish for prison sex, which actually began as prison sex. Initially, when her character was introduced, I felt like she was way too villainous. Like, I get it. The show's about Mary. We want the focus to be on Mary, but come on. Elizabeth was one hell of a queen, okay? And also, initially I felt like they kind of had her cry and whine a lot, which, like, why? Maybe I'm being a bit too cynical, but the show was clearly trying to make Mary look better. I think that's also why they gave Elizabeth comparatively more historically, thus less revealing clothes. But who knows, maybe I'm a cynical bitch. Although I feel like the depiction of Elizabeth gets a lot better later. And Rachel Skarsten is a really good actress, and I love her voice.
I swear to you, it will never happen. Don Carlos was right. It is a fact of our time. A man rules his wife, even if his wife is a queen. I will not be laid low by any man. I will not be ruled by anyone.
So, in the end of season 2, Catherine was banished, but she escapes and joins Elizabeth to defeat Mary, but then she gets imprisoned by Francis later in this epic way.
I'm a patriot. I am your mother. I will not be treated like an animal!
You're wrong there.
You've met the pirate Martine?
No.
Now meet his companion.
We have many carriages, but few moving prisons. It's hard to say which of you needs thicker bars. But I know he'll suffer more.
And is brought back to France, where she is eventually forgiven. So that's where we are in France. And oh yeah, Francis died. Now, as ridiculous of a focus as something like Frary is for a show, it is ultimately a focus. And now that Francis has died, the show loses that focus. It loses its way. I mean, seriously, this is the show 2 episodes after his death.
I'm sorry, this is all just...
Think of it as an adventure. One that you're leading.
It's also... I'm just feeling so self-conscious. Would you mind if...
A blindfold. I like that idea.
Just a minute, almost ready.
What's that?
I'm just making sure the door is locked.
Now, what do I...
It helps if you create a scenario. Tell me why I must be punished.
Oh, Lord. I'm very disappointed in you. You've been a very bad man, Prince Carlos.
I have. Yes, I have.
Now you must face your punishment. You must really suffer.
Yes.
Feel really awful. Sheer remorse. Is it too much? I don't know. Stop! Just from the sound of your screaming, I think maybe we should stop.
Who are you talking to?
You! I'm talking to you! No, not the blindfold!
Mary! I trusted you! The secret, it's everything! I could be ruined.
We were just trying to please you.
You think this is a joke?
No, believe me, I love a good...
I mean, okay. I'm sorry. Okay, I'm sorry to bring this up again, but after part 1, I found out the OG Francis was such a cute kid. He was so sweet. It was actually one of the most wholesome relationships in history. They met when they were children. They got along super well. Mary introduced all kinds of outdoor activities to Francis, and he then later took her away for hunting. Aww. I mean, to be fair, he did begin to throw temper tantrums later, but I'm pretty sure none of them were as bad as locking Mary in a tower or blaming her for not being able to conceive. That's impossible. Everyone knows what the problem really was. They made one of the very few, if not the only wholesome royal in European history into your average white boy 6-spot. And this is the only representation Francis has, because all of the other representations of Mary's life begin after her moving to Scotland, which is understandable, because her life in France was insignificant.
He has feelings for you. And now everyone knows it.
So, what's
on with other characters. Lola finds out that, big surprise, Narcisse, who was a manipulative man, is still a manipulative man. In fact, he manipulated Lola into marrying him by putting a rat in her tub and blaming it on Catherine. See, Lola, I told you. So she leaves him and becomes a prisoner with Elizabeth, with her and Francis's son, Jean. Look, I enjoy Narcisse as a character. I won't lie, he is a complex character, but at this same time, I'm sick of the whole trope of a woman choosing to see the good in a guy, good in a toxic man, and then getting fucked over. It's at best overused, at worst a terrible message to send. Kenna leaves the show. Bash is now with Delphine. By the way, holy shit, the Delphine shit is so hilarious. Like in season 2 finale, they suddenly out of nowhere implied her as a villain, like having cultish sex and all. But then in season 3, they just ignore that and have her return. Also, this show really stereotypes pagans and witches, like that weird-ass season 2 finale with Delphine, the season 1 crap with depicting pagans as these uncivilized heathens or something. And they had a lot of characters really say shit about pagans as well. Although, in Mary's case, that's there because they show her actually moving on from stereotyping, but still, bruh, come on.
You're speaking pagan.
I don't feel like myself.
And the supernatural elements are so inconsistent. It's like, this is a historical show about an actual queen, but it also includes supernatural elements, which in my opinion aren't even as flushed or as well explained or consistent. They just kind of come and go. And ever since Bash's love triangle with Mary, he's been useless. Like, his character was created for the stupid love triangle, and now they don't know what to do with him. So now he's like the town detective hunting down serial killers and whatnot, and I don't care about these other subplots to make Bash and his Balias relevant, like serial killers and red knights. I don't care. I don't care. I have never given less of a shit about anything. Mary gets with Gideon in season 3, who's actually sent by Elizabeth, so he's like torn between supporting both the queens. Also, his daughter is adorable. And like, fine, I don't care about Gideon and Mary, but whatever. And oh yeah, Leith and Claude are a thing now. I like the scene where he's teaching her self-defense. At this point, I'm literally appreciating anything in an American drama where the couple does something other than make out, make love, or say that they love each other. Also, okay, initially I didn't like Claude. For one, I think this is the only actor in the show who isn't that great.
Meeting influential people. You part me with anyone who would take me because you can't stand me.
Oh.
What have I done to earn your ire?
You're spouting nonsense.
Please don't send me away again. I've spent years with strangers.
Self-pity doesn't suit you.
I missed my brother's wedding, his coronation, my father's funeral. I've missed. Haven't you missed me at all?
I felt like she was overacted, but then I guess I got used to her acting and then liked her with Leith. And by I mean tolerate and not wholeheartedly ship, because there's literally no one in this show worth shipping. Like, the development of Elizabeth and Lola's friendship is worth more than every relationship in this show combined. Also, I really love Charles' secret service of pubescent boys. Like, it gives me Skins vibes.
Matador and Shuttlecock in public if our meetings are supposed to be secret.
Our meetings are secret, but when the Queen Regent sees us together, I want her to think I'm entertaining feckless youths, not my agents of espionage. Which brings us back to our mission. And tell me, who has dug up information on the Red Knights?
No one has anything.
Well, keep at it. Let me know as soon as there's news. Now let's eat. You have something to share, don't you, Felix?
It's likely nothing.
But I didn't want to mention it in front of the others to avoid ridicule.
That's not nothing. That may just be the information I need to vanquish the Red Knights.
See, you can hire actors of the characters' ages. But I liked Catherine's redemption arc as well. And of course, the relationship between Mary and Catherine is so nicely complex.
You were right to suggest I consider him. I can't stay here and sustain my rule. But how can I wed another?
You will because you must.
I don't even know who I am without Francis.
You're a queen. Still a queen.
I loved him, Catherine. And now it's done and I loved him.
Mary leaves for Scotland at the end of season 3. So Francis and Mary's marriage, which lasted 1 year in real life, this show spent 3 seasons on, and then spent 1 season for the rest of her life. That's one fucking messed up timeline. So Lola receives a letter in which Mary has asked her to kill Elizabeth, which there were a bunch of casket letters historically as well. Although my guess is that Mary's orders to kill Elizabeth were false, and I'm very qualified to make historic guesses about history. So Lola, thinking that's real, reluctantly attempts to assassinate Elizabeth even though they were friends. She gets caught and it leads her to her execution.
Lola.
You are guilty of conspiring to assassinate Her Majesty, Queen Elizabeth of England.
Lola!
Do you have any last words as you stand before your queen and your god?
Stefan, go! I don't want you to see this! Protect my son! Tell John I love him! Tell him every day!
No!
Stop him!
Stefan, let me go.
This scene is one of the best of the show, to be honest. The music is so unconventional, haunting, beautiful. I wish more teen dramas went with this sort of thing. They actually showed her decapitated head. And they killed Leith in the same episode. Holy shit! This was ballsy when ballsy teen dramas like 13 Reasons Why, Euphoria, and all that didn't come out yet. There are some weird supernatural elements which return because like they need to give Bash a reason to leave, which if they had to do that, why did they bring him to Scotland in the first place? So Bash leaves to learn to be a psychic or seer or whatever. I like Mary's character development though. They really did a good job with showing how she went from a naive girl to a ruler. And also how the dark things that happened to her affect her. She basically went from
I can milk a goat
to
I need power.
Impressive.
I also like the cinematography and the whole setup that Gideon has for Mary here. It's like romantic, but like the kind of romantic I like. Unfortunately, the music's generic.
To the nest.
Elizabeth, or Lisa of Spain, is so annoying, like Jesus fucking Christ. I want to slap her. She's one of Catherine's children and is married to the King of Spain. She holds a grudge against Catherine because Catherine was a shitty mother, which is true in real life as well. They made Catherine a lot more likable in the show, but actually in real life she most probably had symptoms of antisocial personality disorder. No, I'm not qualified, by the way. But in real life, Catherine actually liked Claude a lot. In fact, when her sister Margaret got married, there was a threat that they might kill Margaret's husband. Claude was literally crying her eyes out and so protective of her sister. She begged her to not go to her hubby. She was also a really sweet kid. They kind of mixed Claude and Margaret into one sad character. There is a really common myth of Queen Margot, a nymphomaniac and incestuous woman, but that was actually proven false. She was just a queen who had interest in political affairs and generally was a pretty awesome woman. She did have a lover, Henry, Duke of Guise, yes, which when it was discovered by Catherine, her and Charles beat her up. But she wasn't this promiscuous, overly promiscuous woman. I mean, they basically just defamed both Claude and Margaret, because the OG Claude was a really nice person, and the OG Margaret was also a pretty smart queen and not a nymphomaniac.
How odd. A proper hello from everyone at court but you.
We've said our hellos.
Didn't you miss your old playmate? Didn't you love the way we played? When should we meet? Where?
Claude, what happened between us can never happen again. It wouldn't have happened at all if you hadn't convinced me that Henry wasn't my real father.
Convinced you? I cleared the way for you to do what you truly wanted. How bold you are now. A man in full. Another time then, brother.
The whole Charles forcing Claude into a marriage thing was also inspired by what Charles did in real life to Marguerite. When Darnley was introduced, I kind of liked him, but oh my god, he's such a joke. He's like ambitious and just wants to be king. He's also a drunk. He's annoying, basically. Mary does fall in love with Darnley, but doesn't realize he's a piece of shit before getting pregnant. And then she falls in love with Bothwell. By the way, historically, there was a thing that Bothwell might have raped Mary. Yes, one of the husbands that Laurie McCarthy said makes Mary's story sexier might or might not have raped her. Although poor Mary. She was intelligent and cunning, but she made all the wrong cunning moves. Poor girl just wasn't trained to be a queen. I mean, neither was Elizabeth, but her early life trained her well enough. Mary's early life was really privileged at French court. Catherine didn't bother teaching her future daughter-in-law how to actually be a queen. Oh, and remember the scene of Francis giving Mary head? Yeah. So that's actually a bigger deal than it seems. For one, the fact that oral sex even existed was discovered later. But besides that, it's also a sign of a man willing to pleasure a woman above his own needs, which is a big deal in that society. It is rumored that it was actually Darnley that gave her head, which was how he fooled Mary initially to believing that he loved her and didn't want the crown, which is obviously a big pile of odorous feces. But there's actually not the main thing. It is an actual rumor that Darnley was bi and had an affair with Rizzio. Now, while that is a very interesting concept to entertain, I'm so glad this show didn't go with it. In the show, there's a fire which Darnley and Mary rescue people from, but turns out that Darnley had staged the fire. Later, Mary discovers that Darnley has once again begun his affair with the woman he loves, Kiara. So she
realizes he's a piece of shit.
Mistake was mine. For thinking that we could have more than a political marriage is so stupid to think that we could find love together.
It was only one time.
Why do you keep saying that like it makes it better? I can't trust you. You have ruined everything we might have had, everything we might have been. I knew that something or someone was going to get in the way of our happiness, and I was looking in this corner and that for all the people and the threats that I was protecting you from. And all this time, the enemy was you.
The show is a fucking mess when it comes to timeline. They spend so long on a relationship, well, not worth spending time on. Then they spend time on Darnley, Bothwell, and stupid shit. Kill Darnley with a lightning strike at this point. Make him fall off the edge of the earth. Make the earth flat. That is the only fact left that this show had left that could have been tweaked. I would have had the show last in France for maximum a season, kill off Francis, have Mary back to Scotland, and then have Toby Regbo play some other character who is like this TV show Francis but without the small dick energy and in nature and stuff. I like the idea of having the events of French court and Scottish court and even the English court happening side by side. I like that the show did that. In fact, it did it. It was too late. Like it did that too late, because the lives of Catherine and her children is fascinating, especially Catherine. In the show, they have Catherine actually do witchcraft, which was a rumor in real life as well. She does witchcraft to make Charles a better king, and it actually makes him more aggressive. Well, Catherine, that's what you get for insulting pagans. Also, can we talk about Nicole? So what happened is that Charles spent some time in a little village house after his PTSD crap, which is good therapy. And there's a girl named Nicole there who's this sweet girl. Well, later when she makes it to court, it turns out that she's also a manipulative person. Listen, I love ambitious manipulative characters. Don't like them in real life, but I like them on media. But this is getting a bit too much. Like, to some extent, I understand it was the time. You had to be cunning to survive. It's still the case today. But in this show, it's literally everyone. And that just gets old real quick. Also, oh my god, Leif. So, he goes off to a fight and dies. And then Charles, under the influence of Narcisse, forces Claude to marry Luke, who's Narcisse's son, but he's actually a nice guy. And then turns out, Leif isn't actually dead! This is literally an Indian soap opera level twist. Seriously, the whole person turns out to be alive is one of the most common twists in Indian soap operas. This is what Reign is at this point. And then Leif arrives just in time to stop Luke and Claude's consummation, but then because Narcisse wants the consummation to happen, it still does. Okay, that does not make sense. Like, the whole character development of Narcisse from his time with Lola, before Lola died, his character was such that he was realizing that being a power-hungry, manipulative maniac is not the way to go. After Lola dies, he should have learned that lesson, but then he goes back to being a power-hungry maniac. So that begs the question, what was the importance of Lola at all? Like, for Narcisse, what was the importance of Lola at all? Because it made no difference. Gideon and Elizabeth get together at one point. They go to a quick getaway, but get discovered by Jane, who's Elizabeth's servant. Jane tells this to Narcisse, who after months of Lola's death is like, I'm gonna avenge her death. In the anger of avenging Lola's death, he gets Gideon poisoned by Jane and cuts off John Knox's balls. So he has basically been fine. For months now, but now suddenly he gets all upset again. Like, that makes no sense. This kind of a reaction would make more sense for him when Lola's just died, but now this is just weird writing.
Dear Elizabeth, I know there has been much discord between us. The world and circumstance made us rivals, and we've become weapons turned against each other. But my dear cousin, we are still family. And what is family in this dark and bitter world but a glimmer of light in the distance? I have just had a son who already faces danger. For I am surrounded by vicious forces wishing my destruction. John Knox, the Lennoxes, even my own husband. I need your help, Elizabeth. My duty is to my heir and to Scotland, both of which I fear could be lost. So, from one lonely queen to another, I ask that should anything happen to me, you will protect my child as your own. In turn, I promise you that your throne shall never be threatened by me. Furthermore, if you decide to remain a virgin queen, I ask that you recognize my son as heir to both our thrones. Let us hope he inherits a better world than we did. A world you and I, starting on this day, might create together. Your loving cousin, Mary.
Only one will stand at the end of it all.
I also would have liked to see more of the dynamic between Elizabeth and Mary. This show touches on it. It touches on the idea of them not really hating each other that much, but in reality, it was a lot more complicated. Mary and Elizabeth wrote many letters to each other, and in one of them, Elizabeth even thought of Mary being her daughter. But then she did end up signing her execution. I wanted to explore more of this dynamic. The historical accuracy or lack thereof is not the problem of this show. It's the decisions that they make to change history that matter. From making a sweet kid like Francis to your generic white boy sex bot, and choosing the sister that was rumored to be a nymphomaniac, to having Elizabeth not be a virgin, it really leaves a sour taste in your mouth about what kind of things they think their main audience cares about. And it really says something about what aspects of history and life they consider important. And it's not that other teen dramas don't have ridiculous love triangles, but they don't make it so obvious. And they seem to have a deeper understanding of what a teen girl wants, whereas this show just makes it obvious that they're just trying to just check all of the boxes of which cliches a teen drama has. And as if this show wasn't a mess enough, there's also LGBT activism in this shit.
I can find out where Darnley is meeting with Adama.
How? Are you close with the Cardinal? Perhaps someone in the Cardinal's retinue?
You're good.
I never judge. Who are you sleeping with?
Adama's secretary, Father Julian. He handles all the Cardinal's correspondence. I have a key to his chamber. I can find any correspondence he's had about the meeting.
Good. David, what you propose to do is very dangerous.
You can crush me, but Randall will die. You can make France suffer, but Randall will still die. And you love him. He's not worth the price. No? I understand love, Cardinal. To see it, you only need the smallest of clues. Before I chose Randall as our target, I had to be sure that you couldn't bear to sacrifice him. So I had the servants in your quarters questioned. Not about sex, but about how you two live. And found no letters, heard no declaration. It's cold here. In northern France, isn't it? A bitter winter. You brought a silver warming tray with you for your bed. Monogrammed, the servants tell me. But they were surprised when they found it not in your bed, but in Randall's. And when they wake you in the morning, they say you are pale and shivering because you give what little warmth you can to him. Don't you? That's love, Cardinal. And you care more about someone else's suffering than your own.
You have the victory. Release them, and we will leave you to your fate.
Thank you.
Congratulations. You've used your knowledge of the heart's noblest emotion to manipulate and destroy someone.
Yay! Our main character in the 16th century realizes that love is love and doesn't judge. We like our protagonists of the 16th century. Yay! You get LGBT brownie points. Yay! Here, you know what? Wait. Here, you know what? I made these myself. Here. These are the brownie points you deserve for LGBT activism. Jesus fucking Christ. There's also this.
Do you like how they look on you?
I'll have you know, kings do wear jewels at times. I know what you're thinking. Not on their ears, they don't, but some do. Depends what country. And if you'd been anywhere at all, you'd know that. Fact of the matter is, you wouldn't understand.
Henry, wait, please.
I should go. Best we aren't seen leaving together.
The kind of marks caused by wearing a corset.
What of it? Yes, I enjoy wearing women's clothing on occasion. Jewelry, corsets and the like. Is that what you wanted to know?
Kind of. But
I don't want to be a woman. Sometimes I think wearing their clothes lets me inhabit them more completely. But the truth is, I don't know where the desire comes from. It just is. And though I have to hide it from narrow minds, I won't deny myself the feeling it brings. Power, excitement, pleasure, liberation from a world determined to tell me who to be. I am who I am. I want what I want, and I take what I want. If that scares you, if it repels you, then you're with the wrong man.
I have something for you.
I suppose you have some questions.
Do you remember your first time?
Chemise I stole from my father's mistress.
Do you have a favorite piece to it?
I love you too.
No, I don't get it. Also, here we have a 16th century Protestant farm girl just accepting Henry for being whatever the hell it is that he is in the third last episode, and we never actually get an explanation after this either. What the fuck? Okay. The music in the show, I love the original score. It has a really amazing Celtic vibe. But the songs that they chose, they all sound the same.
We ever get to rest.
Hey, an acoustic guitar is not the only European folk instrument that exists. I love the cinematography in this show.
Although I do feel like there was an overuse of a warm color palette. I especially love the juxtaposition of the French court and the Scottish court. The French court being brighter and the Scottish court being darker. I think it's meant to reflect that Mary is in a much darker state of mind. This juxtaposition is especially apparent in the wedding scenes of Francis and Mary and Darnley and Mary. Again, meant to show her state of mind. Or maybe that's just me giving artistic credibility to this show, which probably doesn't have it. So, Toby Redbow at one point says, "We are trying to show that they're children at the end of the day." Yeah, I don't get that impression at all. Maybe I get a little bit of that impression with Mary in the beginning because she's a bit childlike. But that amount of childlikeness is present in a healthy adult as well. Not only are the actors adults in American teen dramas, but they act like adults.
I understand love, Cardinal. To see it, you only need the smallest of clues.
Jake, I wouldn't do that. I wouldn't crawl up there.
Why?
Okay, I just wouldn't do that. A lot of the
Their way of speech, emotional intelligence, and maturity is that of an adult. Also, how the hell is Charles the older brother and Henry the younger brother? I feel like it would be so much better if teen dramas hired actual teens to play them and also make them act like teens. Like, I saw this thread on the Hunger Games on Tumblr. This applies to Reign as well. If you have actual teenagers, then it makes it that much more affecting to the audience how teenagers dealt with situations like marriage and ruling and all that.
How many teenage girls do you know are obsessed with history? I know I wasn't at that age.
Okay, listen. I love Adelaide, but this ain't it, fam. This is the exact mistake that this show makes, assuming that teen girls are only into love triangles and romance and cute boys, so you can't make a deeper show for them. And so this show, which had potential, ended up being a commercial shitfest which just went through a list of teen drama cliches. And I don't know if this is saying something, but US history, US government and politics, and world history are few of the most common AP courses taken. World history is one of the most common SAT subjects, and social sciences and history are the third most popular college degrees. But I don't know, maybe that doesn't say anything. The costumes. Okay, I'll admit that if there's anything that is a guilty pleasure for me, it's the costumes. Like, are they historically accurate? No, not at all. But are they also nice dresses? Yes, like, I would wear them. My favorite outfits are this black dress and this red dress. So what happened was that the writers thought that they were gonna get a season 5, but during filming they found out that the CW is gonna cancel the show at season 4, episode 16, and holy shit did that create a mess. Like, okay, on one hand I feel bad for them, but on the other hand I'm happy that I didn't have to sit through another season of this shit, because I would have literally lost my mind. So then, all of this happens in the last 3 episodes.
After the death of Rizzio, Mary hangs the Lord Treasurer. There's a 2-month time jump. Darnley doesn't want power anymore. Bothwell wants to arrest all the men responsible but finds only Darnley. Knox has no witnesses, so he goes free. Narcisse comes and tries to convince Mary to enact justice for Lola. Narcisse cuts off John Knox's balls. The Archduke, who's Elizabeth's fiancé, finds out about Elizabeth's and Gideon's affair. Gideon calls it off with Elizabeth, but they profess their love for each other and tie the knot, which isn't legal marriage. Gideon dies from being poisoned. Mary finds out what happened to Gideon. Mary releases Darnley. Darnley says Kiera, who's dead, told him to burn the house. Nicole finds Henry being a whatever he is. Luke asks for an annulment with Claude. Charles announces that him and Nicole are about to get married. Darnley has syphilis. Lady Lennox tells Darnley to fill the Privy Council with his supporters. Mary writes a letter to Elizabeth saying to make him heir to both their thrones, and in return she'll drop her claim on the English throne. Darnley kidnaps his own son. Lisa tells Henry that Spain will support him when he forces Charles to abdicate. Henry tells this to Nicole and they head out.
Nicole, bring me the corset. You know the one I like.
Charles finds out and throws Lisa in prison. Catherine asks for favors in return for help. Catherine does what any mother does when her two sons are fighting over the same girl and asks a witch for help. Luke tells Claude she can go with Leith, and only Claude finds out that Leith has gotten married, which makes no sense. Jane is the one who poisoned Gideon. Elizabeth suspects the Archduke and asks Francis Drake to steal his money. Francis Drake says they got into a thing with the Spanish. Elizabeth throws Jane in the tower. Nicole dies because of the witch. Catherine tells both brothers to work together and defeat Spain. The witch has a threesome with Catherine and Narcisse and becomes pregnant after whispering a spell. Catherine tries to stab her, but it fails. Charles and Henry are planning to take on Spain. Catherine runs into the witch again and asks for the future deeds, and the witch helps her as if Catherine didn't just try to kill her. The witch says that Catherine should seek the support of her daughter Margot, which she does. Elizabeth leads the fight with the Spanish Armada. Elizabeth tells the Archduke she'll never bow to any man. James returns and finds Mary's baby, who is now to be named James. Mary gives Bothwell permission to take him out. Bothwell plants explosives where Darnley is, but he doesn't die, so Bothwell kills him himself. Bothwell comes to tell Mary to flee, but they're caught by John Knox et al., who's completely fine despite being castrated, and then
my god, the timeline is fucked. Now let's talk about the final scene. When this final scene came on, I was literally jumping and dancing because, like, oh my god, it's finally over! The amount of relief I felt. When I saw the scene again, I felt rage. Because the final scene is brilliant! I mean, just look at the music that they use. It's so perfectly haunting and dark. And the final song is romantic, but also haunting.
Oh, the devil's inside. You opened the door. You gave him a ride.
It's beautiful, and it just reminds me that this show had so much artistic potential, but they fucked it up. I guess their fault was choosing the CW as their network. Like, seriously, try this. Show the scene to someone who hasn't watched Reign, and then tell them that in this same finale, there are 2 unended plot lines and a threesome with a witch. Seriously, do that. Try that, I'm telling you. And the finale of this show is the worst finale I have ever seen. Like, what happened with Catherine and Margot? What happened with the Spanish Armada and the whole Charles and Henry thing? Like, nah man, dishonor on you, dishonor on your cow, dishonor on this whole goddamn writing team!
stood there, motionless, silent, and forgetting.
And then the show ends. But maybe I'm wrong. Maybe France in the 16th century did look like Ireland. Blocking wives seems to be a thing in this show. And then the CW put them on their website and parents complained. These parents are most probably the abstinence-only parents.
To plant the English flag with the full support of the crown. Go, discover new lands and new riches and claim them for your country. I want to be the queen who makes England the greatest power the world has ever known.
And absolutely nothing went wrong with that. Taking the medicine, aww. It makes me nostalgic for when I shipped them.
So, maid's gossip is true. I thought Melanie came along because she could cook.
She did, and she can tell a great joke as well.
Are you kidding me? You know, if people fell in and out of love this easily, then our population would be like 20 billion by now.
Tidings of old, so end the ancient words of our wise. He who has ears to hear, let him hear.
That ends the review for Reign. Holy shit. Oh my god. You know, like literally, so I had initially started watching this show. I mean, I had watched a little bit of the first episode back into 2016, but then I didn't finish it, and then I started watching it again in 2018, actually, like November, December 2018, and then after like 6th episode, I was like, what the fuck is happening? And then it was like,
I just kind of, I realized that the show was shit, so I was like, okay, you know what? I'm just gonna watch until Francis and Mary's wedding. That's it. Like that's to the only point that I'll watch. So I only watched the first 13 episodes, and I was like literally texting my sister because she's seen Reign. I was like texting my sister. I was like, this show is so crap. I will never watch it again. Well, guess what? I watched the whole thing. I was like, that night was the night I decided this will be my first video. I mean, I had been planning a YouTube channel since before that, and I had ideas. But when I watched this, I was like, that's it. This is how I'm going to start the channel. So now obviously it took a while to watch the whole show. Like, okay, finishing this show was literally more difficult than writing an essay. And I had written a 4,000 word essay. I was like getting a headache every time, and I was like, during the final, I was like, I'll finish it today. It's just 8 more episodes. I'll finish it today. It didn't happen. Like, oh my god. No, yeah. Toby Redbow is a pretty boy though. Toby Redbow is a very pretty boy. I love him! Yeah, and literally I felt like when I was editing the first part, I was feeling, despite the fact that the first part was released almost a year after I first started watching it, like literally while editing it, I still felt the rage that I was feeling when first watching it. The show is just so stupid. Like, oh my god, it's so stupid. Like, Jesus Christ. Like, wow. Anyways, now finally the review is over. And I am going to celebrate.
Don't drink the wine.
Sonda bocca neri on ti on da bocca ne on banaunom Formitir sin sor si zeynep yan biz ne lizantim ne ligiatim Nero datim bion tutu senanom Servidon dia severim lizatim eligia Manaroch mamma kolo tutan nitan doch nam da bocca di homine Serenam sere brictom inne ano manara sanare Serenam sere brictom inne ano manara sanare Inside celebrando Aguara sanare In cere brictom
original brownie prop and I burnt them. I'm 21 years old and I burnt brownies from a fucking cake mix. Oh, I'm gonna use these brownies because I think it will improve upon the joke.
And you dishonor on this cow?